Composition is the secret sauce that really makes all of your paintings and drawings work. Today I'm going to help you finally understand composition. So before we start, they are digging up my road just outside my window. I've waited and waited for them to stop, and I just have to get this filmed, so I'm just going to have to make this video so interesting that you won't notice any background noise. So let's start with looking at what composition is. Now, composition is just design, and like any good design, you really shouldn't notice it if it's working properly. In fact, people only notice bad design when I get into my little green car. I love my car, but light on the screen, the dash panel, it's just not bright enough. Sometimes I have to put the headlights on during daylight hours just to get it to ramp up the lights inside the car. I notice it every time I get in the car. Do I notice the seats? No, they're comfortable. Do I notice, 200 other design elements in my car? I don't notice any of them. I only notice the thing that doesn't work as well as I would like it to. If you think about anything you look at, whether it's a hotel room or your printer, you're only going to notice the things that irritate you. So the purpose of good composition is that it shouldn't really be noticed. And what is it for? Its purpose is simply to lead the viewer's eye into the painting or drawing and to hold their attention. Now, we often think of composition in terms of landscapes, but composition applies to every single painting or drawing that you do, and that includes things like portraits, still life, florals, absolutely everything. Once you understand composition, you'll be able to apply it to any subject and make all of your paintings and drawings look great. Later in this video, I'm going to give you 4 simple composition rules, but composition is art, not science. I'm also going to tell you how and when you can break those rules, but we're going to look first of all at how to take your viewer's eye into the painting. And I've got a clever trick for helping you to understand it. We're not going to talk about golden sections. We're not going to draw arrows on any dusty old oil paintings. And there will be at least one dinosaur in today's video. So I'm going to draw some of the time in this video with this nice British biro so that you can see easily on camera. We're just scribbling today, so drawing a bit of a horizon line here. Now, it's easy to think of composition in terms of landscapes, but of course it applies to everything. But we're going to start with landscapes, and we want to think about how to take the eye into the picture. Now, it can be really hard to visualize somebody's gaze, so what we're going to do instead is think of the gaze as a small person, and here he is. So we're going to think about how we take this person or the gaze into the picture. What we need are diagonals. Once we have diagonal lines, we can take him into the picture. So we can use something like a pathway. Obviously, a path could take someone into a picture, couldn't it? So that's pretty easy. Or this might even be a river. If it is a river, then he might need a boat. And we can have multiple angles and multiple items taking the person into the picture. Once they're in there, we need to keep them busy. So this is quite a good option here. We can take our person into the picture. There's something interesting to look at here. We can go all the way up here and maybe have something else interesting to look at up here. And then ideally we can bring the eye back round. So we keep going round in a circle. Oops, I think I've knocked him over a little bit. So let's look at something that doesn't work as well. And let's look at what we shouldn't do. What we shouldn't do with the path is to take the eye out of the picture. So imagine we have a path or a river or something like this. It's just going out like this. So the person that looks at this, we'll imagine our little man again, the eye is going to come in here and go straight out of here. Now, what if this is an actual element in your picture and you want to put it in? What you can do is you can block the exit from the picture. So we could add something in here to redirect the eye, perhaps a large tree. And now when our little man comes in, he's not going to go off here, he's going to wander up around here. And we can add other elements in of interest to bring the eye back round. We could add other diagonals, perhaps even just some darker or shadowy areas. And you see how we're keeping him in the picture. He looks about 30 foot tall now, doesn't he? So you want to think about bringing someone into a picture, and it does not have to be something as basic as a path or a river. It could actually be elements, because as well as following pathways, our little man, our vision, our gaze is a bit like Hansel and Gretel. It can also follow breadcrumbs. So we can use repeating motifs. So what about some grasses here? And then further into the picture, they're a little bit smaller. And then here, they're smaller again. So again, we've got a diagonal here, and our eye or our little man will just join these elements together. We can also add colour. So this can be made even more effective by adding colour. Let's pop him over to the side for the moment. So we can add some coloured elements, things that repeat and get smaller as they go further away from us. This is something that I like to do with boats. If you've got something like a boatyard or a seascape where there are lots of little boats laying around, you can use those little orange, I'm trying to think of the word, what are they called? Are they buoys? Those little orange markers that they have, the round things. You can tell I don't go sailing, can't you? And you can sort of place one here quite large and one here. And these dots of colour, these repeating motifs, these things that get smaller as they go into the distance, can act as well as a pathway into your picture. Once we're into the picture, we then want some interesting stuff to look at before we perhaps come back round again to spend longer looking at the picture. And it really is as simple as that. So I talked earlier in this video about composition rules, and there are lots of them, and you will find that professional artists break them all the time, but you can't just break them as and when you please. There are reasons why you might or might not be able to break them. So I'm going to go through just 4 of my favourite composition rules that are really going to help improve your paintings and drawings. And as we look at each one, we'll also discuss whether or not we can break this rule. So let's start with the 1/3 to 2/3 horizon line rule. So this rule says that, and I've got all sorts of pencil marks left on here. This rule says that horizons that are halfway up the picture can be extremely boring, and that really your horizon should either be 1/3 from the top, like this one here, or 1/3 from the bottom. Now that's great, but how do we actually think about that when we're working? So what we can think about is, if we've got a picture and the horizon's about halfway, we want to think about what's interesting and what's not interesting in that picture. So if, like this one here, we've got a few trees on the horizon, but the sky is pretty flat, nothing's happening here, but in the foreground, we've got all sorts of stuff going on. We've got boats and we've got chickens and we've got rivers. There's all sorts of stuff going on in this picture in the foreground. So it makes sense, therefore, to move the horizon line up. A high horizon line will emphasize the foreground, making it interesting to the viewer. Now let's look at the opposite. So let's think about a picture where there's really not very much going on in the foreground at all, but the sky is really interesting. We've got all sorts of stuff going on up here. We've got clouds. We've got some really fascinating stuff going on. Now, if you have got a photograph or you're working from life and your sky is really interesting, but there's really not much going on in the foreground at all, then you want to move your horizon line down. A horizon line 1/3 from the bottom will give all the emphasis on the sky, or also will make your landscape look much bigger and more expansive. Where I live in the UK, I'm not that far from somewhere called Norfolk, and as a county, it's known for its big skies. Now, of course, the sky is just as big in Norfolk as anywhere else, but what they actually mean is the landscape is very flat. There are very few hills there, and so you want to give the emphasis to the sky. So can we break this rule? The answer is yes, this is quite an easy rule to break. Let me show you how. So maybe your horizon really is halfway up and you kind of like it that way. When can we break this rule? Really, we can break this rule when there's a lot going on. You know, maybe there's a lot of trees, a lot of things sort of blocking out that horizon line a little bit, making it really interesting. You really can be quite instinctive about this one, and you can just have a look at your picture and think, well, even though the horizon is halfway, you know, does it look really boring or does it look interesting? And the more stuff that you've got going on, the more interesting I think this is going to be. So if you want a halfway up horizon line, you want to be sure to add some really interesting elements. Rule 2 is don't take any line or element directly out of a corner. So this rule is all about not doing things that are purposefully distracting. Have you ever taken a photograph of a friend and ended up with, a lamppost growing out of their head? It's really distracting, isn't it? Another thing that can be really distracting is taking a line directly out of a corner. So maybe we've got some telegraph poles here. Actually, I've done the perspective on that wrong, haven't I? They should get closer together as they go into the distance. Here we go, that's better. Right, so imagine you've got, some telegraph wires here, and this one goes right out of this corner here. Or perhaps you've got a road or a pathway. Let's move this little bit of masking tape, and it goes straight out of the corner here. It's really, really distracting. The eye will follow it straight out of the corner, and just like your friend with the lamppost sticking out of their head, it's all your viewer will be able to look at. There's a simple way of avoiding this, even if it's like this in a photograph you've taken. Just adjust it slightly, and whatever seems most likely, you can take it out of the picture a little bit lower down or a little bit higher up. Trust me, nobody will notice the difference, and it's going to make your picture look much more pleasing. Can we break this corner rule? Actually, I would say no. I haven't seen anyone do it effectively. That's not to say that somewhere in the world someone hasn't done it correctly, but it's pretty solidly distracting, and it's very easy just to avoid doing this. Hello, it's future Michelle here. I've only travelled into the future one day, so they are still digging up the road. But I just wanted to pop in before we go on to our next rule, and I just wanted to let you know about some extra drawing resources I have for you. Of course, I have a whole free drawing playlist here on YouTube. I also have my 9 days of sketching challenge. That one's free too. But if you're watching this video when it's just come out, my flagship drawing course, my online drawing course, is on sale at the moment. Hundreds of people have taken the course, and there are hundreds of 5-star reviews, so you can buy with confidence. I'll leave a link to that in the video description. If you're watching this video further in the future than I have travelled, then the next best time to get the drawing course on sale is during the Christmas sale, which runs usually each year on all of my courses between Boxing Day and New Year's. Now let's get back to the video. Rule 3 is don't fully divide your paper in half in any direction. So imagine instead of a river going into the distance or a path going into the distance, we had one that cut completely across like this. So the rule is don't divide your paper completely in half, because here is our little man and he's trying to get into the picture and he absolutely can't get in. And it doesn't have to be a horizontal line either. You also don't want to divide in half this way. So you might have perhaps a wall, or it could even be something like the corner of a rocky mountain. But imagine we have a brick wall here. You're visually going to sort of think, do I look at this side? Do I look at this side? And again, our little man, our gaze is prevented from traveling around the picture. So can we break rule 3? Yes, we can, but we have to do certain things. We've created a barrier and now we have to help the eye to move across it. So how do we break this rule? Quite simply, we give our little man a way of crossing these elements. So if we look first of all at a horizontal element, an easy way to get him across is to draw something that intersects this line. Now, it could be, physically we could make a little bridge in there or a little gap, but also it could be something as subtle as some grasses perhaps growing in the foreground and crossing from one side to the other. If there were perhaps a fence that went all the way across, then you simply need to make a gap to allow the eye to travel in to the picture, perhaps an open gate. So if you have something going from one side to the other, you either need a gap or you need another item going across this area. Again, we could use something like a tree in order to allow us to go into the picture. Now, recently I did a painting of some flowers and I had a brick wall on one side. So again, we've got a brick wall here, and this is very distracting. We don't know which side to look at, and we are prevented from traveling around the picture. So what I did in that case was I just grew some plants up this wall. Not the best flower I've ever drawn in my life there, but you get the idea. We break up the line. We have elements that go from one side of the line to the other side of the line, and this enables the eye to move freely around the picture. Rule 4 is a common design principle, and it's odds, not evens. Let's look at the odds, not evens rule. So imagine a picture where we have two identical vases like this. It's quite uncomfortable to look at. You won't really know which one to look at. In your brain, you're kind of dividing it up. And the same would go if we had 4 items. It's quite disjointed and we would tend to group them in 2s and 2s. And just generally, it's not pleasing to the eye. Now, if we go from these even numbers to an odd number, it becomes much easier to look at. And if we offset these things and have them perhaps overlapping, it again becomes easier to access. And the reason for this is, we've got some diagonals going on here, because diagonals can just be, as we spoke about before, joining one item to another. So if we imagine our gaze coming around here, back up here, there's no uncomfortable even numbers to worry us, and we can come into the painting or the drawing. Our little man can come in and he can travel up around these diagonals. Let's hope he doesn't fall into the vase. Things in 3s and 5s always work better than 2s and 4s. Once you get up to larger numbers, something like 16, doesn't matter if it's odd or even, but with these smaller amounts, having 2 items in a picture is often a mistake and can be very distracting to look at. Now, can we break rule 4? Yes, we can. Let me show you some ways that you can do this effectively. So what do you do if your picture really only does have 2 items in and that's all you want in your picture? There are some things you can do to make it look a little bit less uncomfortable. As we spoke about before, you could overlap the items. You could stagger them a little bit. You could add a way of linking them together, or even a third item without adding a third item, if that makes sense, because we can use things like shadow almost as a third element of the picture. So we've still only got 2 items, but really there are 3 things on the paper. We can also mix it up, vary the size of the objects, and again, find some way of linking them together. Perhaps it's the surface they're on. It's not too hard to make even numbers work in a picture. Just think about getting some movement between them, some way of joining them together so that they look more like a group, whether that's shadow or colour behind. And consider how you could use something in your picture to make a third element. What about adding a cloud in the background without actually having a third object? So hopefully you've now learned how to take the eye into the painting, how to hold the viewer's attention, how to make sure nothing looks uncomfortable, and how to follow some simple rules that you can occasionally break in order to make your paintings and drawings more pleasing. So my final advice to you is that if you are a complete beginner, then rule following will serve you well. And as you become more experienced, you'll be able to instinctively break a few of these rules. So do let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, if any of these principles are new to you, and let me know if I have finally helped you to understand composition. And before you leave this video, don't forget to have a look in the video description. There's lots of free stuff down there that you can grab for no money whatsoever. There are some free downloadable PDFs and some free courses. And you can also find out all the details of my paid courses, including my complete beginner's drawing, and of course my complete watercolor beginners, and many other courses that I have made for you. And if you have enjoyed this video, I think you're going to find the next one really interesting too.